Real talk, real life, real growth.
This is Raw Reality with Tori Story and Fit with Lily. Christina, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
We're here. We're doing it.
I feel honoured.
I'm so excited. Yes. And we're going to hit a hard question first, as we always do with our guests. Mm-hmm. But what is one mindset shift that would have changed everything earlier if you had learned it?
I feel like there's so many quotes that I just think about all the time. And probably the biggest one is not necessarily a mindset shift, but you can apply it to it from Tony Robbins. And he says, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And I think that is just like such a doozy for myself with my journey, so many seasons of like having all these things, but then deep down just feeling so empty. I think that just knowing that earlier and questioning that a bit more would have been a big thing. And then I'll cheat and give you one more.
Yeah, go for it.
But also that bad days are a really important part of a good and meaningful life. I think something that I have in the past, I think now I'm getting used to it and like better at it, but I would make myself so wrong for a day where I was like really struggling or just like not sure why I was feeling low, all the things, but it's just like that's actually just part of it. And if you can just let it be part of it, life is so much easier.
I think that's going to be my favorite answer that anyone has given for that question.
And she just nails it.
You hit hard.
I need to come here more often.
You do, especially the first part, because a lot of the time we all think that we have to be successful and that's what's going to make us happy, or we have to have all the money and that's what's going to make us happy. But at the end of the day, it's actually just feeling fulfilled in your life, and you can have less money and be less successful but more happy in your life. And this is shown a lot of the time with like, I don't know, billionaires, for example. They're literally in this huge house, have all the things and anything they can do and they want in the world, they can do, but they're so unhappy. Mm-hmm. They're not fulfilled. They don't have those things that make them feel like almost like satisfied and worthy and all of those things. And it just really goes to show how important what you have to do, what you love.
And I think for context for you guys listening, we're going to go into a certain topic today, but Christina has dabbled in many businesses, and not just any business, like successful businesses. And I think when you say that, it comes from like deep down because you've done so much and now you're like, actually happiness comes first, which I feel like I'm now stepping into with becoming a mum. I'm like, yes, making all this money is great, but if I'm not happy, then it's not worth it for me. So that answer was just, put it on a t-shirt.
So we're entering your dirty 30s. We have hit them a few weeks ago.
Yep.
And we would love to know, because we all, as we get older, we tend to spiral a lot more. But I feel like from conversations, you've said that 29 was more of a spiral than 30.
I was going to say, yeah.
And I also feel that 26 was a spiral for me. 27, I'm like, I'm actually kind of chill. Mm-hmm. Interesting. But what has changed the most from your 20s to now?
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm 2 weeks in kind of thing, but I do feel as though 29 really was the year of like entering the 30s. So I would say it's kind of been a year of like an intro. And the biggest change is you just know yourself so much better. You know what you value. You've got so much more life experience under your belt, especially like myself. I have always just been someone that has done the thing. I've traveled, started the business, canceled the business. Like, you know, I've lived 1,000 lives. So I think you just know yourself so deeply as a person, which means you can come into so much more intention around how you lead your life, the relationships that you keep, what you do for work, the boundaries that you have, what you value, what you don't. And you just have no tolerance to anything that doesn't actually serve you or the people that you love. I think that's the biggest thing. Like and it's not even a reactive thing. I'm just so unbothered by anything that isn't serving me or the people that I love.
Well, you should go through your 20s trying to please other people, trying to find your feet, not knowing what's right, not knowing what's wrong, and you almost do all of the failures and the risk, and not necessarily all the failures, because I'm sure there's going to be many more to come in a positive way, but you just figure out what works for you and realizing that, like kind of tying back to your very first point, that making other people happy doesn't make you yourself happy. And that's where you put those boundaries in place. You know what does, and you feel like you're so much worthy of it now.
Yeah. And I think we just like need to remember as humans, we are hardwired to belong. And I just believe until you don't know yourself fully, you will always seek belonging in external factors, whether that is in a friendship group, whether that's a career path, going to uni, pursuing the right thing. it's not a bad thing and it's not necessarily a conscious thing, but we're always seeking belonging. So I think that's your 20s. You're like, oh, I guess I fit in here now, so I'll be this person. I guess I feel like I don't fit in right now, so what I'll do is I'll get the job that everyone has because that's what we do, and then I'll get the house in it. And you just come into 30 like, no, like because I belong in myself now, and so then I can make more informed decisions around that.
And I think that's where a lot of people listening come in and go ask us questions of like, what should I be doing? Should I change to this? Like, and I think your 20s is for that. And I think 20s are awesome because it's like you get through that age of coming out of school, whether you're going to uni, but you hit the age where it's like some friends are getting married, some friends are starting a new business, some friends are still living at home, and your 20s is just like absolutely insane. And I think we obviously meeting our group in the last couple of years, we've all been able to like navigate that together, or the second half of our 20s. But I feel like 30s gets to be exciting.
Yeah. And it's like you're the spring chicken, you know? 29, I'm like, I'm the oldest one here. And then now I'm like, I'm the youngest one here. So I'm 30. I've still got 10 years till I get 40, you know? But I think, perfect way to like wrap it up. Like your 20s, just think about it as you're in like the dishwasher. Do you know what I mean? Like you just, or the washing machine, you're just going around. You're just like, this is like chaos.
Truly.
And then like it just stops every now and then. And then you go again. Like,
that is such a good way to put it.
You know that girl in the teacup, like the ride meme, and she's just like going around on the teacup? Probably not.
No.
Like, no, it's chaos. It's giving 30, but it's chaos in the best way.
I'm obsessed.
Also just touching on like you're glowing physically so much more as well heading into your 30s because we like go through our 20s like, damn, I've hit my prime, I'm at my peak. Girl, just you wait. Like you said, you know yourself more. So you know what like clothes fit you better. You know what like foods suit you more, how to train working for your body, and you are just giving that. So just know
You
that
don't
like
look 30. So
no, 30s is where you start to thrive. And if you compare a lot of photos, like looking back, it's like 25. Whew, what was that? 30, hot, sexy. We love it.
it's like looking back at us when we're like 15 and you're like,
Yeah.
oh my God. Yeah.
Literally.
Also, just for another backstory, I just feel like it needs to be said. But Christina and I, you guys will know, we went to America together end of last year, just after I found out I was pregnant. And we like realized how similar we are on the path that we've had with coming out of school, I guess, both elite athletes going through injuries, gained weight, started drinking, got in the wrong crowd, and just like went through this whole cyclone of like what is happening. Very similar. And I feel like we need to like do another episode on your personal story and business. But I think it's just important to note because like you have truly been through a lot. So it's not just like speaking from little things. It's like no massive life experience.
Yeah. When
moving
people are like,
states.
what's your story? I'm like,
Like
How
much
much time just do you know that I'm here right now. That's all that matters.
I survived. Okay. That's all that matters.
Literally. So now being 30, did you expect to be where you are at this age, or what did you envision for yourself?
It's so interesting being asked questions like that because I don't know if I black it out or if I just never had intention, but even thinking to my wedding day, I never like was someone that pictured my wedding day as a kid. Like I never had these visions for like where I should be and what I should do. I think because I've always just been such a fast-paced mover in life, and that has not always been a good thing. Like probably like my nervous system has always been so fried. So I'm like, oh, let's get to the next thing. So I've never actually had time to like go, what do I want to, where will I be? But if I was to look back on like 20-year-old me or 25-year-old me, I couldn't imagine it, but deep down I just have always known that I would live a life that I'm just so lit up by and like so in love with. And I think that's always been what I've known I would experience, just not knowing what that would look like. But then the life that we have now is what that is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And I think it's like what we've kind of been saying, or what I've said based off my year last year, was like maybe like you don't need to have a plan, because I think through school, it's like, well, what are you doing out of school? It's always like, what are you doing next? When are you getting married? When are you having kids? But it's like, can we just enjoy the now? I know I'm working towards something bigger, something greater, something that I want, but it doesn't mean I have to pinpoint exactly what that is. And that was last year for me, going back to Melbourne, competing, then falling pregnant. That was like, yeah, I'd hope to do that one day, but it wasn't like that was happening in 2025. And it's like when you release that pressure, I think you enjoy the process a lot more.
Yeah, fully.
1,000%. So what do you feel like you care more about now, and what do you feel like you care less about now?
Good question. I feel like I definitely care less about people's perception of me and of my life or my marriage or friendships or whatever, because just growing up, you understand, especially in the online space, I always think every single person will see you completely differently based on their own internal world. And so you can never be who everyone needs you to be. So you just have to be yourself and be okay with the fact that there will always be misunderstanding in that. So I think I definitely care less about being misunderstood. I'll definitely get challenged in this often, as we always will. And then things I care more about, I would say I've just come deeper into my value for health and doing things to support longevity, like our health longevity and marriage, genuine relationships, just people that feed like my soul and people who I can equally like feed and support. I think just collective growth probably with the people that I love.
I literally saw a reel this morning. It was like, some people say I'm the nicest people ever. Some people say I'm a bitch. And it's like, depends what version you get of me.
Fully.
And how you treat me as well.
Can't wait to enter that.
And like every person has a different view of the world.
Yeah.
And based on your upbringing. So it's like, you've got 7 billion people to impress if you're trying to be liked by everyone. Like there's just...
I feel like I'm in that transition phase, like knowing that I used to want to be liked by absolutely everyone I had an interaction with. Now I know that I can't be liked by everyone, but I still struggle with people not liking me or having a different interpretation or perception of myself. Like I want to be able to control everything that they believe that I am. So I'm in that middle phase where I'm like, I know what's true and what's not true, but I'm like trying to lean away from it as much as I can. So I just feel over the next 3 years before I hit my 30s that like by the time I get there, that's where I'm going to be.
Yeah.
And I'm ready for it.
Yeah. And there's a quote with that. I don't know where I heard it, but it's like, lovingly, you never trust a people pleaser or someone who wants to be liked by everyone, because all that means is they're just molding to fit your, like who they think you need them to be, which is a dishonest version of themselves.
Well, it's like when you have a conversation with your friend, right? And they 100% agree with everything you're saying about one side of the story. Then you hear from another side and they've disagreed with everything that person's also said, but it contradicts what you're saying. And it's like, you just had 2 different answers depending on who you were with and who you were trying to impress. And I do sometimes get caught in that just purely not having an opinion on something and actually being so neutral in the matter of being like, I actually really don't care. I see your side. Oh, but I also see your side. So that's where I feel like at the moment I'm trying to form an opinion around things and like stay grounded in that. And when I am having a conversation with someone, like, no, what do I truly believe in? Not what do I just like am like okay with and like neutral with. So it can be really hard, but that's what I want to challenge everyone listening to this episode is actually like stand your ground in conversations, because people will appreciate you more if you do have an opinion and if you do have a rebuttal in an educated way as well. And that's where conversations and deep conversations are so much better.
Yeah. And it encourages them to form an opinion.
Exactly.
And I think that comes with age and maturity too, like finding your voice, finding what you believe in. Because like for so long you would just kind of, not you, but like we just tend to like agree with the person we're talking to because that's easier. We don't like conflict. But as you get older, it's like, and even now our group, like we're so easy to have open conversations with everyone's opinion and be like, oh, yeah, like I didn't think of it like that. And I think when you then can go into conversations open-minded as well, you have different interpretations of people.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you just can't have your opinion, stay grounded in that and be so close-minded.
Yeah.
You have to also be open to hearing other people's, and when they come with a different opinion, not backlash them or come with an immediate rebuttal and be like, no, I disagree. Like you have to be open.
And I think there's a lot of that on social media,
yeah.
which we may go into a little bit later, but it's like people just have their strong opinions and they've got to say it.
Yeah. Well,
then
it's
and
like,
there.
and your opinion's not right. It's just your opinion.
Yeah.
Like there is no such thing as right and wrong. So what's right for you is wrong for me. What's wrong for you is right for me.
And
so
when you can be like, oh, okay, that's Christina's opinion, not mine, that's fine. Walk away.
keep it moving.
Don't dwell on
More
it.
people need to do that.
Yeah.
Tell me
Yeah.
what.
Literally.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you have more pressure entering your 30s, or are you feeling more at peace?
I feel so peaceful.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
it's
good to hear.
phenomenal, guys. I think again, I have life factors that motivate this, but I'm just so aware now of like nothing's guaranteed, and like you're not promised time, you're not promised people, you're not promised experience. So I just go, well, like what like actually matters, and if it doesn't matter, then all good. And at the end of the day, like I said, nothing's worth it if you're not fulfilled. And I heard this other quote, I think it was Chris Williamson, and he says, there's no point being smart if you're not at peace. Like being smart is pointless if you're not at peace. I'm like, it's so true. Like we can't execute, we can't show up, we can't achieve things on a long-term scale if it's coming from a very dysregulated place. And I think this is the first season of my life that I have felt so fulfilled and competent in doing it all, but I have felt so peaceful in doing it all.
So beautiful.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Would you say, I guess we all go through this in our life, but it's always going to be different. But from 20s, say mid-20s to coming into 30s, did you ever struggle with comparison? So you're, as you mentioned, married to husband Cruz. We love him. And you guys have bought a few houses and killing it in the game. Have you ever in your 20s coming to 30s experienced comparison to other people, whether it be having kids, marriage, whatever that looks like?
Yeah, definitely. One big thing, like personally, was very much being in a career like position that did very, very well, and making a decision to move away from that for my like happiness and peace. I think that was a big one for me on the timeline of my age, because I made that decision at 27 or 28, I believe. 28? Mm-hmm. Yeah, 28, end of 28, so nearly 29. And it's like, oh, okay, it's like, are we starting again now kind of thing? And not starting again, because I'm very lucky to be in a marriage where Cruz does provide for us 100% in that capacity, but it's also that whole self and identity piece around like, have you failed? Like, and then obviously all of you girls are so incredibly successful, which I'm so grateful to be around in different ways. And you go, oh, maybe I should just keep doing it, because then you will be self-employed and then you will just be able to keep this lifestyle. But what I came to was like, you have time freedom, but you don't have internal freedom. So go trade that in. Give up the time freedom for a job so that you could find yourself again and then come back out. So that definitely.
Yeah, just so people have context as well, like you owned your own business, mindset,
mentoring.
Yeah. Balls, you do that then? I did that beforehand. So
that needs more context.
I'll give you like a 30-second.
Yeah, I think people need to know what you did and then what you transitioned into
okay,
at 28.
Okay, so I graduated with a degree in psychology, so I've always loved humans, the brain. From the second I stepped off that stage, I was like, I'm not working for anyone. Okay, so and then I just traveled for like every other year for like 3 months at a time, figuring myself out, came home, worked at cafes, never wanted like a job. Then I started a meal prep business, transitioned to protein ball business, transitioned into self-development. So I wanted to use my degree in a less formal sense. And then that business I had and was self-employed in for 3.5 years.
Mm-hmm. And very successful in it.
Yeah.
But mentally
not successful on paper, internally dying. Yeah. But I really didn't let myself acknowledge that was the case, because you're so distracted by the noise and the numbers and the accolades.
That industry just got so...
Ugh.
You were like in that industry at peak time too.
Like low-key a cult.
Yeah.
Like we can talk about that next episode.
Yeah.
It was a cult.
Yeah.
So anyway, whatever.
we'll be back for a part.
And then, I got to the end. I was like, nah. And especially moving up here, I've always wanted to be like in the influencer space. But in Adelaide, not that I'm blaming environment, but when you're not around it, you don't realize how possible it is. And I remember meeting you girls, like not meeting, but really establishing our friendship. And Lil and I, we were talking on the beach. She was like, yeah, just like start posting stuff. I was like, oh, okay. And then like, I guess I can't.
You know what's crazy to me is that conversation to me was so minute, just a flying past like comment, but like meant so much to you. And sometimes you really forget your impact that you do have on other people, because I'm sure it's the exact same from conversations that I've had with Tori, and maybe something she said really landed with me and like I just took it and ran with it. But like you don't really realize those conversations are so important.
Yeah.
I do remember you being very hesitant to step into the space. Like so many beach walks conversations of like, I really want to do it, but like, and that transition is hard. And like, I totally get the Adelaide thing, or I kind of felt it in Melbourne in the beginning because I wasn't in the space. But Adelaide felt like so, like I couldn't walk down the street and do a 0.5. Whereas here, like absolutely no worries.
Yeah, definitely.
So yes, environment does play a role, but obviously there are beautiful, incredible influences in Adelaide, but when you're not in the space or around it, it is really hard.
Yeah, and especially coming from only like having a platform that only delivered things of value. So I was so used to being like, anything I post has to be of value to someone else. Yeah. So then the idea of being like, here's my coffee was just like rattling.
It had to be a coffee with your to-do list of the day, or a quote, or going into like a rant.
Yeah, so that could be a whole tangent. But coming back to your actual question, the comparison piece, everyone's going to have it, like no matter what. And I think we can be mindful and aware of it so that we can kind of just stop it in its tracks. But equally, it can just be healthy for things that we do want to like, experience or try or work towards. So even for Cruz and I, yes, we have property and, we're, doing really well in that capacity, but that has required a lot of like financial input from our end. And so, we have sacrificed a lot to be able to have things currently that are building for our future, whereas a lot of other people, there's no right or wrong, but they would rather have the money in their accounts and they might use it for, travel or materialistic things, which is all perfect. And I don't think we've ever necessarily gone without, but it's like we do make sacrifices so that we can really establish that for our future. So it's easy to compare in that department, but it's just remembering that everyone's on their path and you can take something from everyone, but your path is your path kind of thing.
Off the back of, as you just mentioned, the very successful business, now coming into being at peace and doing what makes you happy, do you feel like you still have the pressure to prove that you're ambitious?
I did. I definitely did. And a lot of it very subconscious because we're just like, yeah, no, all good, all good, all good. But there's that part of you, especially coming from being an athlete, you're just like, well, my worth is dependent on my ability to perform. And so if people all of a sudden think that I have no desire to perform or I'm not ambitious or I'm not hustling or I'm not grinding, then who am I? And I definitely have worked on that over the years, not by choice, but through like injuries and having to be like
I was forced to.
Cool. So I am not worth anything anymore because so, you know, you're forced to do that. And I think there's always lingering parts. And it's really probably the last like 6 months, I would say, coming into self-assurance around I know how ambitious I am. And I also don't need people to, like, I don't need to prove that to people. If they want to believe otherwise, that's perfect. But it's like, whatever.
It's that like hustle in silence.
And I feel that so deeply. That's my silent slay this year. And I don't want to come in here and toot my horn because I'll probably have a breakdown next week. And I'm saying like that.
But we are feeling good today and we are going to run
today. We are doing well.
Me too, feeling it.
But like,
it's
you know,
the year of the horse.
It's the year of the horse.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year. Yeah, Liv's like, what?
No, I was literally, I should give some context. Like, we walk in, they're like, year of the horse, like, we're ready, we're feeling strong, powerful today. And I was like, oh, I felt like shit this morning. Like, what does that mean for me? And they're like, oh, it's fine. It's just like shredding out the last little bit of it. And I was like, okay.
It's like your snake tail is just coming off.
It's Liv's first time here, guys, like really on earth. So.
We actually just established before, someone commented on my YouTube that Ziggy's like an old man's soul and he's been here before, much like his mother, and Boston has not, much like his mother.
It's so real.
I know.
It's so real.
Oh,
but
anyway.
I think I have had that for forever and it will also creep up at times, but it's just like, okay, you could tell people what you're doing so that they can see you as like such a go-getter and such a hustler, and that's perfect. And if it's coming from a clean place and just like there's nothing attached to it, amazing, share it. It is so inspiring. People want to see it. This is never to make people shy away from sharing achievement or drive or what they're doing. So I think that is the most, you know, impactful thing that someone else can see. But in the same breath, if you're only doing it to prove to other people that you're someone that's getting it done, what would it look like for you to take that energy, internalize it and use it to execute, because the results will always speak regardless. And that's kind of the era that I'm in now of I know who I am and I know what I value and I know that I am ambitious and I need to know that. You know, not everyone needs to know that, and then the results kind of speak. So
I love that. Do you think society pressures women more towards careers now in comparison to males? Because almost going off the back of like, I guess, hustle culture for females and being viewed as ambitious, we almost just view all men as ambitious and always working towards a career. Do you think that now there's more pressure for a female to be ambitious and have a career and a successful one within the society that we now live in?
Yeah, I would say yes, and that it's not necessarily a good nor bad thing. It's just more so where the person involved, so like the woman involved, is approaching it from. Because if there's someone who they're genuinely like, this is exactly what I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for more opportunity, for more, you know, acknowledgement of like what I am capable of, for more equality. I know it's not 100% there, but it is like on that path in, you know, certain ways. But I think that's amazing. And then I think on the other hand, there is pressure for potentially women who believe that it has to be career or home life, career or family, ambition or nurturing, like, whereas it just doesn't have to be one or the other. But I think that is where the pressure point comes in, because people believe, well, if I'm going to be this career woman, then I can't be this. If I want to pursue my dreams, then I have to give up this, versus I get to actually let it all coexist and not make any of it mean anything about me.
I think I'm coming into that, especially entering motherhood. I'm like, I want to be ambitious and have the career, and I also want to be a mum and be very present with my baby. There was a conversation recently, I feel like I would listen to it on Hot Smart Rich with Maggie, and she very much preaches, like, I think it was hers, but it was like, get rid of the or. Like, you get to have the and. It's like, you can be hot and rich. You can be smart and rich. You can be successful and at peace. Like, you get to make it all happen if that's what you want. And a lot of people think I have to have this or this.
Well, I also listened to a podcast as we're in our podcast era, and they were literally saying like, oh, how do you balance it all? And he was like, I don't balance anything. I harmonize everything. So I get to do this and this, exactly like you were saying. It's not like, okay, this is outweighing this. Okay, got to bring this up to make sure it's balanced, like my family life and my work life. I literally just combine them both, and that is what works for me. So you don't always have to be like one or the other. And I think this is a lot more prevalent in females because it's like, oh, you're either a mother or you run a successful business. You can't do both. And there's obviously outliers who are very, very successful in being able to do both, but it's extremely hard to. Like, and we almost make it wrong to be able to do both. It's like, oh, I'm going back to work like only 3 months after I've given a child. People are going to view me as not a good mother, or vice versa. I haven't gone back to work after 3 months, and now people are viewing me as like, oh, I don't really care about my job. I'm not ambitious and all of those things. And I think that's what society pressures us the most with in today's day and age. But our group as well, I feel like, is so supportive of each other, knowing that we do get to have it all. And if you want to have 2 years off work, we're like, go for it. If you want to like give birth and that night be in a group call, go for it. Like, we're all very supportive in that. And that's where it does truly just come down to your environment.
I think that's where society has created like the mum guilt thing, because it's like you see so many women, mothers, having to preface like if they're going to work or why. Like, I know Sarah's Day does it a lot. I know Georgie Stevenson shares a lot on her mum guilt and going back to work because she loves both and she gets to have both very well and successfully. And it's like, I think that's just comes so much from society because, and this was my next question to you, do you think women are criticized no matter what path they take?
By someone, yeah. Like always. And I really it's just reminding yourself that the only reason is because someone else is projecting their own insecurity or limitation onto you. So it's that quote of like, no, you can't, I can. So it's like, you can't go back to work and have a baby. No, you can't, I can. You know, and if you just go, yeah, maybe you can't and that's okay, but I can. Or maybe you don't want to, but that's okay, but I choose to. And what, like I was just thinking when you were saying, Lil, it's like if we just, it is so hard to do because naturally, like, we're going to care about what people think. But the less that you do, the less that these problems are quote unquote problems, because you do just have so much self-assurance around who you are and why you make the decisions that you make, as opposed to having to disclaim to everyone why you make the decisions that you make, you know? And I'm not preaching because I definitely I'm not saying I'm perfect in that, but you just have to choose to come into that season of, well, this is what's right for me right now. And also, nothing is permanent. So if it's not right for me tomorrow, then I'll just change my mind again.
Yeah.
And that's not that deep.
Yep.
Period.
Okay, something that we do want to touch on, because we're all kind of entering this era and a lot of you listening are probably going to get there at some point in your life.
Or in it now.
Let's talk about being a housewife. Right? You have a very successful career. You're very ambitious within yourself, but you also love to care for crews. You also love being that traditional role within your marriage. Do you think that people misunderstand what being a housewife is?
1,000%. 1,000%. I also think people misunderstand what marriage is.
Yes.
Okay? Because marriage is a union of two people and two lives, which means that there are going to be roles that you have to play in that. Right? It's like on a netball court, there's a goalkeeper, there's a centre, there's a goal shooter. There are roles that those players have to play so that that team can work cohesively. Exact same as a marriage. And this is not to put a blanket approach on how every marriage needs to be, but it's you need to find what works within your dynamic and then play the role that you vow to play when you decide to enter a union. And I think just to side note in that, we are quite troubled in this day and age where people see marriage as like they're just in that relationship for now, but it's not, they don't understand the commitment of what that actually means to be bound within a marriage. And so I think that's where a lot of the kind of misconceptions come around, like the housewife role or the provider role or the whatever, because people don't actually look at it from like a long-term playing field in what's going to benefit you and the life that you are creating together. And I really also believe that people, again, like we were saying, have this one or the other perspective of, well, if I'm at home and if I genuinely care to take care of my husband in this capacity, then I'm not ambitious, then I'm not a go-getter, then I am controlled by like whatever the story is. And it's just so untrue. Like there's just so untrue. And I feel like there's so many different avenues that we could kind of take this conversation.
Yeah.
So it depends where you want to go with it.
Well, I think the thing with this specifically is right now through social media, it's very much like females shouldn't have to care for a male. Females shouldn't have to stay at home just to make their males or their husbands happy. And that is not what we're talking about at all. We're talking about caring for your partner while they also provide, while you also have a job and you are fulfilled within yourself. What also makes me fulfilled is cooking my partner dinner every single night and them appreciating that. What also makes me fulfilled is absolutely not knowing what car insurance I am with, how much the electricity bill was last month. And that is us playing our roles. Then we come in and we have a successful business together. Being a housewife or caring for your partner does not mean that you don't have to have a job and that you have to literally stay at home, be on your hands and knees scrubbing the ground. That is almost what people depict it at the moment. And it's like, no, you just got it all twisted and all wrong.
Yeah. And then to that, I think there's so much that I could say on this. So I feel like this is going to be a great conversation.
Yeah, please go.
Yeah. But I like to that as well. Of course, I work for JT. I do my socials. I do whatever. But if my husband is working 12-hour days to pay for our mortgage, to then be able to put money into the 3 properties that we now own to provide for our future and our family, I will scrub the floors. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And like, I think that's where we're like, no, you shouldn't. I'm like, no, I will choose to do that because you know what I don't want to go and do is be a diesel mechanic and work for 12 hours in the mud like my husband's doing right now as I'm here in this comfortable lounge room recording this podcast for fun.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just actually acknowledging the privilege that comes with having a partner that is so willing to work so hard so that you can live the life that you want to live. And I put a reel up about this the other day and, you know, people will take this in whatever direction, but I'm just so convicted in it of like, you know what, maybe tonight I didn't feel like making dinner, but Cruz probably didn't feel like waking up at 3 a.m. To go to work.
I did love that reel.
And it's like, we're all going to have to do things in life that we don't necessarily feel like doing, but it's at the end of the day, what you and your partner come together and agree upon is like what the best dynamic for you is and what you genuinely love to do for each other and why you love to do that for each other doesn't mean the act in and of itself you love. Like, I don't really love cleaning a toilet, but then to be honest, Cruz does the bathrooms anyway. So we've got out things in that. But it's like, okay, cool. You're not always going to love stuff, but you love each other and that's why we do it. And that's such a thing that I think people now, especially in the age of social media, like we're all doing things to show people that we do it. So it's like everything I made for my husband this week, meal prep edition, like I'll create that content. But it's like I was making that for him 5 years ago. Because I love him.
And you're doing it regardless of it's being posted or not.
Exactly. So it's like when you love someone, you just figure out what that looks like. And for us, the dynamic is I'm privileged enough to work from home. And so I also love to clean and I love to make food and I love to be able to lighten the load for him. Like if his lunchbox is ready for him in the morning at 3 a.m. to walk out, I am living for that. And he loves it. But again, and the other day he even messaged me because I can have stuff come up for this where I'm like, I feel guilty around the fact that you work so hard and like, you know, I'm just at home and I'm going to Pilates and I'm doing this stuff. And he said, Christina, like the number one joy in my life is seeing you happy. And it's seeing when your stories come up and seeing how you're living, like that is why I work. And it's like, yeah, so if I'm going to be making sure the house is nice and tidy and there's a candle on the dinner ready when he comes home, that is like the bare minimum and a privilege for me. It's not a chore for me. And I think
it's exactly what like Cade said on his story this morning. He like worked really late last night and then got up, went to the gym this morning and I was asleep before he finished working and then I was asleep us him getting up. Like I just slept a lot longer and then we met on the beach. We went for our beach walk and he's like, this is why I do it, because for these moments in my day where it gets to be a little bit more quiet, I get to spend time at a place I love on the beach with my partner, with our dog, and that's what makes me happy and that's why I work so hard. And then it's like, okay, and that's why I can also help doing all of these little things to make your life easier so then you can provide for our family. And yes, I like Kate and I obviously have the business together. It's very 50-50, so it can look a little bit different, but it doesn't take away from the fact that like I still do all of these things to make his life easier, but equally he still does all of these things to make my life easier. So it's not like I'm absolutely doing everything for him while still working and doing 100%, paying everything, doing all the bills and all of those things. Like we still have our roles within the relationship and it's kind of coming to an agreement with your partner of what works and what doesn't. Maybe you actually suck at cooking and he's like, babe, don't cook for me.
Fully.
Don't do that. Yeah. But like, I would love my clothes ironed or something like that. I don't know. Take it how you will, but it has to be a conversation of what is actually going to work for your relationship because everyone's going to be so different because maybe you're also working full time and you work more than your partner and then he has to provide for you and it's the opposite effect. But it's just knowing that you have to have roles within your relationship to make it work.
Yep. And I'm sorry.
No, go.
I genuinely believe that you should be dependent on your partner in different ways. And I think where the misconception comes in that as well, especially as women, and some people might not relate to this, but I've seen it in myself, I've seen it in so many people, is that we have this belief that being dependent on someone means that we're not capable. And then what happens is we end up trying to prove that we are capable and we can do it ourselves and we can work hard and we can grind. And again, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I love to work hard and I have a lot of passions, but in the same breath, I've really, within my marriage, come into such just certainty around the fact that we do depend on each other, but that doesn't mean either of us are incapable. It just means that we choose to depend on each other because we are married in a union. And so when you soften to that and you go, yeah, I could go and work and make that much money and pay the bills and do whatever, and then Cruz could come home and he could make dinner every night, and he does do the steaks, or he does do this and does do that and whatever, but we just choose to do it for each other because that is a partnership.
And you become more successful within your relationship as well when you get to work as a team rather than working against each other. And I know we both had this conversation is sometimes, well, I know that especially for me, I become competitive with my partner. It's the worst thing you can do for your relationship because sometimes I'm like, I have to prove that I've done more in the house, that I've worked harder, that I've trained more. And I'm like, what is that proving? Absolutely nothing. It does nothing for our relationship, for the fulfillment of myself, for the validation of myself. What works best is actually when we have our roles, we play them and then we come together, we complement each other, and we actually are so much more successful. And I grew up in a family of 3 girls. So obviously my dad is going to make sure that we are good on ourselves. And I think it is so important to have your own money and do your own things. But I kind of got to a point in my life where I was like, okay, I'm not trusting anyone with my money. I'm not trusting anyone with anything else. Like I am myself and my partner can have his and I have my own. Then when you come into a healthy, successful, loving relationship that feels really safe, the second that we decided to kind of like, not necessarily, yeah, we did, like join bank accounts, join things, like actually be a partnership. Oh my gosh, like the happiness within myself, the less stress I felt around money, all of those things like skyrocketed. And this is where it comes so important to actually having a good partner, right? And if you don't feel safe in your relationship and you don't feel like you can do those things, then I feel like it's almost questioning it. Like you need to feel that you can trust them wholeheartedly with all of this or else it actually won't work.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's acknowledging that there are reasons why male, female, whoever can grow up having reservations around trusting someone else, or around what it means to be provided for, or around what it means to have a male figure in your life. Are they trustworthy? Do they leave? Like, well, the thing. So it's acknowledging how your upbringing can play such a massive part in that. And then, like you said, Lil, once you come into a healthy relationship, it is on you to actually challenge those beliefs so that you can soften into the dynamic and let yourself be led. Because at the end of the day, a male is supposed to lead.
Yeah.
Like it is not my job to question. Of course, and that again is such a misconception. People think, oh, so you're just going to sit there and be quiet. No, because this is what conversation is within a dynamic. But at the end of the day, I trust my husband to make the decision, full stop. And that's only come from me being willing to break down beliefs around what a male figure in my life is. Like, are they trustworthy? Is he going to leave? Is he going to actually be consistent? I've had to work through all of that to come to a point of yes, and I'm actually the one getting in the way of this, which is when the competition comes in, which is when the fear comes in, which is when the hyper independence comes in for women for the most part, because we believe that we're not safe to fully lean in and receive. Whereas once you can overcome that, again, like pending your partner and you can only know what that relationship is like for you, that's when life flourishes because you get to complement each other. And I genuinely believe like my ability to be a loving partner and wife for Cruz amplifies his and our success tenfold, because he always says, he's like, I could never do what I'm doing if you didn't take care of me the way that you did. And I know I could never do what I'm doing if he didn't take care of me the way that he did. And a side note to that as well is, whilst we do have our roles, it's not like we're ticking off these things in the boxes. We just know how to best support each other because we've had conversations around, hey, what makes you feel the most loved? What makes you feel supported? How can I make your days easier? Is there anything that I'm doing that is making your days harder? Tell me these things so I can work with them. But then also that doesn't mean that Cruz doesn't do things around the house because it's my job. It's like we just work together. And so if he knows I'm had a big day or I've got really bad period pain or just literally he'll get up, do the dishes. Like we're not roles in a rigid sense. It's just like we just know how we work best, but then we equally do whatever we need to do to make that day work for ourselves as a couple.
When have you always kind of known that this was sort of the role that you wanted to take growing up?
Yeah, fully. And then definitely made it wrong.
Yes.
Because I feel like I've come into it now again.
Yeah.
Because I grew up, I'm meant to be a mom. I'm meant to be at home. I'm meant to be slaying. I'm meant to be looking good. I'm meant to be getting dressed up to cook some dinner. Like that's the vibe. Don't get me wrong. I can wear my PJs and be very not cute. But like I've always known that. And I've always known I'm meant to be at home, whatever that looks like. And then it was like, no, you shouldn't do that because you should not trust a man. We should be independent of a man, work for yourself, have your back. You never know what's going to happen. Always have this safety net in case anything happens. That is such a damaging perspective and belief to have in a relationship because you are setting yourself up to leave that relationship.
I grew up completely opposite. So I grew up wanting to be, I think it just came from being the oldest child and wanting to be so hyper independent, be ambitious and not having to rely on anyone and proving to everyone around me that I can be successful by myself and that I am that successful female. The second that I surrendered to that perception that I had and I fell into Kate and I's relationship is when I became more ambitious, more successful and just way happier in myself because I also could go to the feminine and then I could also be more in my masculine. When I was so hyper independent, I was just almost always in my masculine, always reserved, always had my guard up, so defensive in everything. And now I feel safe in having my own opinion and actually having good conversations and still being super successful in my own right because if anything, he has like kind of proven to me that I can work harder, I can do more, I can even have like bigger dreams than I currently do. And I think that's what my question leads to here is, do you think women can be both ambitious and traditional at the same time?
1,000%. It's the dog's having dreams.
Oh, baby.
We've got all the dogs around us.
She's so cute. Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Do you think women can be both ambitious and traditional at the same time?
1,000%. I think that the more that you can lean into, if you are someone, I'm speaking to the person right now who wants to be a more quote unquote trad wife, which I don't even know why that's a thing because all it means is just like caring for your partner, like loving your partner.
Yeah.
So it's like become this whole thing. But I believe the more that you actually let yourself lean into those things because it is such a feminine thing. And when we think to the feminine energy, it is flowy, it's creative, it's intuitive, it is ambitious at the end of the day because you're no longer moving from force and nothing good comes from force. I don't actually just will never believe otherwise because yes, you know, things come, but things could be so much better if you actually just allowed yourself to be in the flow of your life and like your most intuitive self. And that comes from playing into that element. So for me, I don't think it is ever one or the other. I think it is both, like we've said so many times. And it is the more that you can actually allow yourself to just do the things that fill you with so much joy, which for me is more of a traditional role, the better I've become in my career, in creativity, in a more aligned path, which at the end of the day, that equals longevity.
When you mentioned before, you've always seen this for yourself, but made it wrong. When did you start having those conversations with crews or even with yourself to be like, no, this is what I want and I need to start actioning it?
Yeah, good question. I think coming from the business that I was running and kind of just coming into a position where I didn't let crews lead because I decided that I had to, you know, be equal playing field and have say in decisions and all of these things, which you absolutely can and should, but mine was coming from a reactive place. It was more like, yeah, no, I'm good. Like, we'll figure it out. I've got it. Like, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And it wasn't until I just came in Cruise and I started having conversations around, you know, what I want is to be able to be at home with our babies one day. And what he wants is for me to be able to be at home with our babies one day and for me to be happy and at peace and to actually just trust him. And that has been the biggest friction in our relationship over the years. And I think for so many people it is where a woman does not fully trust the man's ability to actually lead and take care of them. So in turn, they try to overcompensate in all these strange, reactive, weird, leaky ways, which I definitely did subconsciously. Now looking back, you're like, oh, okay, cool. Whereas like once you start having that conversation, you realize that they want that too. And that at the end of the day, you both just want each other to be as happy as possible and to feel as loved as possible. So what does that look like? And once we started having that conversation, I realized that whilst logically I knew we're on the same team, I was like, no, we're on the same team. And that's what that gets to look like for us. So
I think as well, like of it, this conversation is targeted to those people who are forming a view on like how they want their future to look, especially if you are in your young 20s still. I think it is so important to still have your independence and not necessarily rely on your partner. They're not that we're saying you need to rely on them or be dependent on those like things. So it's kind of how you take it. But early 20s, a male, sometimes they're not going to provide you all of this, right? So it's actually knowing where you are at in your life. If you feel secure with your partner, because you may still be early days in your relationship, you still have to do all of these things alone. It's kind of when your relationship forms, how you want it to form over time as well, because if you start a relationship and you know that they're going to be the one and you start to like implement all of these habits immediately that you've taken with you from your past relationship, it's really hard to kind of unwind those over time. So it's almost like having that perception from the start and slowly implementing them into your relationship early on to then get to this point. But we're not saying that you have to apply this when you're 21 years old, right? So it's actually knowing that this is kind of, this conversation is leading into your late 20s, early 30s, and this is how we want to be now.
Yeah. And like I'm married, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You know, and a lot of your listeners probably aren't married, and I've been with Cruz for 7 years.
Yes.
And, you know, there is just so much learning and unlearning. So discernment with this one. Like,
and I think too, there are a lot of males that do want to be the provider, but then there are a lot of males that are happy for the woman to be the provider. And I feel like I believe that those people find each other and it works for them. But even myself, like, and I think half of our group have always been like, no, like we've had the successful businesses, we can be the provider, be the stay-at-home dad, it's fine, until probably maybe I want to say 4 to 6 months like before falling pregnant. I was kind of like, oh, I don't want to do that. And then I fully had that switch, and then falling pregnant, I'm like, I actually don't want to do that. I would go batshit crazy not having anything to work on because I love, and you're like, we're all the same. We want that creativity to go somewhere. We want to have those passions, and we're all are ambitious to have whatever it is that we want to work on. But I have come into it being like, oh, it's okay if he wants to provide, which he does want to do. And that is like where things are going and what's happening and the direction we're taking. But it's like, it probably won't happen until a few more years down the track, whatever that looks like. But it's like, oh, we're kind of potentially establishing our roles and like what we want our future to look like. Hopefully, eventually, we're both working very minimal and we can just be with our kids and travel and do all the things. But you're not going to figure it out straight away, especially in your early 20s or
even
early
first relationships.
Yeah.
It takes time, and you learn them from each relationship. You just get better and be like, hey, I liked that, didn't like that, didn't like that. And you have to go through, honestly, like the ups and downs of them. And if you don't have many downs, your ups aren't going to be as good. So if you are really struggling in a relationship at the moment, you've just gone through a heartbreak, just know this is like the best thing for you, because now you realize what you don't want and you get to fall into what you do want. I have a question that a lot of people ask me, yourself, our whole friendship group is pregnant besides us, right? How do you feel about that? Do you feel there is pressure from family, society, that you are now entering your 30s and they say that, oh, you're on a ticking time clock? Like, how do you feel about pregnancy at the age that you are?
Yeah, I definitely don't feel, there's so many ways I could go about this. The first, like, not to preach or anything, but I just really don't think we should be asking those questions. Not you, but like people in general should be asking those questions in 2026, just given that we have so much knowledge now around how hard it can be for people
Imagine
to
if you were
conceive.
2 years into trying.
Exactly.
And you're like, yeah, no, shit, I'm trying.
Yeah. Well, someone the other day on my question box, which I am not trying, I can say that. But like someone on my question box said like, do you feel like you're missing out because your friends are pregnant? And I just like, imagine if I was 3 years into my conceiving journey, I would feel like I'm missing out. And
it's just like people do just need to be so much more mindful
1,000%.
of the questions that they're asking.
Yeah.
And like, I think it's easy for people to just ask a question because it's someone online. I think a lot of people forget that we have feelings and we are humans and we're all going through our own shit that maybe you don't see. So it's just like, let's just tread lightly in some areas.
Fully. But anyway, to answer your question, I think that age has definitely been I never had pressure until I kind of entered my late 20s, and I never had fear until I guess like social media consumption elevated and I started hearing more about, oh, but this age this and that age that, and it would be harder to conceive. And, you know, I've had endometriosis and had all these things and had fear kind of placed upon me from external projections, which I've then like internalized over the last few years of like, oh, okay, like I'm not ready yet, but then what if when I decide to be ready it's harder or it takes longer, and just like stories like that I think are just inevitable sometimes, like when you just actually understand the body. But I think especially the girls getting pregnant has made me feel so much more calm, because prior to that I actually had a bit more head noise around it. If I were to fall pregnant first, because like if you were to look on a timeline it would make the most sense, I feel like I thought I would have such a big separation from the group of like, yeah, I'm like, 30 and married and whatever, but then it's like bring your baby into the mix. Do you no longer belong? Do you no longer relate? Whereas now I think all the girls being pregnant does make me feel so much more calm, because I'm like, oh cool, like it is just the season that we're entering. I'm blessed to have never had any pressure from family. I also really, literally at the core of me feel like I'm like 20. Do you know what I mean? So I think that in my mind I'm like, yeah, oh good. It's like, oh, like, maybe. Yeah. But I think we just have goals that we want to tick off kind of as a couple. Nothing is promised. We do have a plan for when we want to start trying for a family and stuff. But yeah, pressure-wise, like I feel quite neutral.
And that's where it literally leads back to the very first conversation of this podcast, is being convicted in who you are and not feeling pressure from anyone else or trying to please someone else or fall into society norms, actually being fulfilled where you currently are at in your life. And that's not falling pregnant, or that's not, I was going to say getting married, but you are very married, and all of those things, right? Like I think it is so important to actually stay stern in what you believe and what you are after, because for myself, imagine if I just was like, oh my God, all of my friends are falling pregnant, I'm going to miss out, like I've got to get pregnant now. I would probably be put in a mental hospital. Like I don't physically think that I could be pregnant right now at all. Whereas like other people in our group, it's perfect timing for them. So the timing is always going to be suited for you and anyone listening to this conversation. And maybe all your friends are getting engaged and you're still single. That is so fine. Like you're meant to be exactly where you are right now. Don't put time on it. Don't put pressure, because imagine if you did get engaged to your ex, you would be so unhappy. So it's like, you might get engaged in 5 years' time, but being the happiest stage of your life. And that's also where they say that sometimes you go through a divorce and then you get married again at 40, and that's the happiest they've ever been. So don't put pressure on just because your friendship group are doing something. Maybe they're traveling, got a new promotion, pregnant, engaged, all of those things. Like you are exactly where you are meant to be.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is, you can never connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards, by Bob Proctor. He's like the #1 spiritual guru. Rest in peace. Wow. Love him. But it's so true. And this is not to say that, especially if you are struggling with like, infertility or whatever it is, there are so many things that will never make sense in life. Illness, family, whatever. There are so many. So it's not to say that is what we're talking about, but exactly like you said, just trust that it makes sense for where you're supposed to be, and trust that like what's meant for you will find you irrelevant of the timeline in that. Like even with, your journey and falling pregnant, that made no sense, but it makes all the sense.
It still doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
but it does. Yeah, like scientifically and like physiologically, it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah,
but here
like
we are.
no period. Yeah, gets pregnant.
But I also
go.
just like whole nother conversation, which we won't go into. But I just think so much is made up now, like especially when it comes to a woman's body and what we are capable of. I honestly believe so many issues that we experience are just a result of the fear that has been placed upon us, because a system benefits from the fear at the end of the day. So
I think we need a whole episode on that one.
Yeah.
I think as well, like in terms of like believing it's the right timing and all of that kind of stuff, I think it really comes down to, again, I'm going to say age and maturity, but also the adversities that you've been through, because I have the tattoo on my ribs. Everything happens for a reason. I got it when I turned 18. So I feel like I learned that timing is everything very early on, because of my acro career that was injury after injury, then miss the Australian team, like so much adversity, but everything always worked out in the end. So I'm grateful that I did get to learn that very early. But you might be sitting here at 25, 26, 27 and go, it's just not making sense. But like, know that it will. Like it genuinely will. And it might be another 2 years. It might be tomorrow. It might be this tomorrow because it's the horse year and everything's about to turn around. But it's like sometimes you have to just surrender and go, you know what? My timing's perfect, and that like it is what it is. And when you can do that, I believe more will come to you.
Fully.
That's meant to be.
Yeah. And like my favorite parts about myself and like my story or my character or what I know about life or the way that I see life now, they have all come from the most painful times of my life. Like the moments where you're just like, this one, I don't think I'll be getting through this one. And then you do, and you're like, I am so blessed that happened the way that it did. But in the moment, you're never like, I'm grateful because it's like, and you're not meant to be. I think that's the misconception, that you should be grateful when you're in the thick of it. I always say you should try to access hindsight before having it of like, this is so painful. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And I'm validating that. And I also know and trust that one day it's going to make sense.
Yeah. That's what everyone told me when I went through my first breakup. And I remember you telling me specifically, you're like, it doesn't make sense now, but I promise you it will in a few years. And I was like, I don't fucking want a few years. I want to feel good now. And you're like, sorry. Yeah, it's just not the way that
make
it
that
is.
happen right now.
Yeah. But here we are.
And I think that was what we talked about a lot in America, was like all that shit we went through in the moment, so hard. And again, like you said, I'm not going to make it out of this because I had so many of those. And now it's like I have no regrets. I wouldn't change one single thing because it would potentially change where I am right now. And I wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people think in the moment. It's like, I just want this gone, or I just want to get over this breakup or move on. It's like you have to go through it to get through it.
Yeah. And your perspective's everything. There's an analogy, I think that's the word, but like that's used often where two people could be fired from a job today. One person lets that become their whole life story. So in 30 years, they're like, I'm just bitter and I'm poor and I'm sad because 30 years ago I got fired from my dream job and that was it for me. The other person uses that as the opportunity to start the business, to move states, to do something. And 30 years later, they go, I am living this life and the only reason I am so happy, so filled, so successful is because that thing happened to me. And so it's like the same thing, different stories.
That's literally like Jackson, for example, when he got delisted from his footy club, and that was his dream growing up, his entire dream. And he could have taken that and just been miserable and not done anything with his life. The next day, he's like, well, I'm going to go work here and I'm going to move to Melbourne. I'm going to play footy down there. And that's just who he is. And I think if you can just bring a little bit of that into your life, you'll go beyond places.
Yeah, because we all know the like once AFL draft person that's still talking about it 40 years later and you're just like, let it go.
It didn't work. And when I was 7 years old, that's why.
And you'll never hear him make an excuse.
No,
he's just like, move on.
Exactly.
What's the next thing?
Yeah.
And has had multiple successful businesses.
You're like, let's keep it moving.
Yeah.
So,
So to tie all of this up, I have one question. What advice would you give to your 25-year-old self?
Very direct on that 25.
Yeah, 25. I'm like, what was that?
Well, because that's where a lot of our listeners are at, is like that 25 years old. It's always like, oh, what advice would you give to your 18? You've just left school, whatever. 25, it's like you're starting to become really convicted in who you are. You're on the path. You're probably in that successful relationship or that loving relationship. Like, what advice do you have?
Oh, so much. One big thing I would say is that no decision is permanent. There are a lot of decisions that are permanent, so take that with a grain of salt, but like really no decision is permanent. So the more that you are just willing to go after what you want and, you know, travel the world, move states, come home, whatever, you can just always change your mind. So I think taking the pressure off of having to have the final answer or final destination for any decision mapped out before doing it, because in that you will get to where you're supposed to be. So
that's like Lily's favorite quote. It is. You're not a tree. You can move whenever you like.
Exactly.
It is. It really is. Because we think that like, oh, I'm so nervous to move states because what happens if it doesn't work out? Then it doesn't work out and then you move home.
And
cool.
It's like I find it so easy for us to sit here and say it because we've done the things. And I remember like when I was deciding to move to Adelaide, it's like the scariest thing ever. But you just have to do the thing to figure it out if it's meant to be or not. And you will figure it out. You'll either go back home or it'll lead you to a new state or a country or a new job that you never thought possible. But you have to be willing to take the risks.
Yeah. And the question I would just get everyone to ask themselves is that what would you regret not doing? So, because just to wrap it up, guys, I'm a bit like morbid in my thoughts, but in a very powerful way, because I just always come back to, okay, well, we're all going to die. Maybe tomorrow or maybe in 60 years or maybe in 20 years. Like that is absolute, right? One of like the only absolute things in life. And so what are you going to regret not doing on your deathbed? Are you going to get there and be like, there is so much that I wanted to experience. There are relationships I wanted to leave, countries I wanted to see, businesses I wanted to start. But I'm so glad I just like played it safe and just lived the same life day in, day out until this day. That
take me now.
That take me now. Literally. So I'm just like, okay, cool. If I can remember that, then I'm doing this thing.
I think I want to get that tattooed.
Like you're going to die.
Like my wrist or something. Like what would you regret not doing? Because it's so true. And that was the biggest question I asked with Acro last year. I'm like, am I going to regret not doing this? Absolutely I am. And I think every listener would know about it because I spoke about it for so long. So it's like, well, then I'm going to do it no matter how scary it is.
Yep.
Because if I'm going to regret it in 20 years, well, then fuck.
Yeah.
Then I've made a mistake.
And like, what story are you going to tell about your life one day? Like, imagine just getting to the end of your life being like, oh, there is so much that I wanted to do. I think Chloe Bromwich always says this, but she might have heard it from somewhere. But like, imagine your deathbed and every possible version of yourself that you never lived up to surrounded you.
I've got goosebumps.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, like, okay.
One of my friends, Caitlin, she is also an online coach, like does bodybuilding, all of the things. And she found herself getting so stuck in routine, especially on the Gold Coast. I feel like it's very strong in like, you get up at this time, you do this at this time, you do this. Like it's very like routine structured, and you have to be living to your full potential all the time, and you have to be successful in what you do. And not that that's wrong or anything, but we can get so caught in our routines. And then she was like, I need to start to do other things outside of my routine. And we obviously preface so much on this podcast to like start healthy habits, do all of those things. But sometimes if you take it too far, it can get toxic and we do forget to live our lives. So every single month she's doing something that she wouldn't normally do. Mm-hmm. And she, for example, I think in January, she's from Perth and was like, okay, I'm going to go to the Australian Open just for fun. And I know that might sound so simple, but we can get so caught in our routine and getting to bed at 8 p.m. and waking up at 4 a.m. and on repeat every single day. And that's something you would regret at the end of at the end of your life. So I was like, wow, I really love that. And just saying yes to more things, because I can definitely get caught in being like, oh no, well, I have to do this in 2 days, so I can't do that today. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no. Mm-hmm. You can change it all up while still living your routine and living your healthiest and best life. But I just kind of reflect back to being at the end of your life and knowing I did the exact same thing every single day. You don't want to do that. You want to be able to experience life and know that you said yes to everything.
Yeah. And there's a quote, I'll probably butcher it, but it's like, to not dance when you could, or like when you could listen to the music or whatever, will be the greatest regret of your life. Like, and what that means is like to not actually just live while you're able to live will be the greatest regret of your life. And while you're able, you're not going to be able forever. You're not going to have opportunity forever. You're not going to have things forever. You might not have them tomorrow. So like, what would you do today?
Wow, this is making me just want to get up and like, I don't know, do something. Like I need to do something.
Dance.
Yeah, get up and dance.
Oh, wow. I'm obsessed with this episode and I hope you guys are as well. So please share it with someone who you feel like could benefit from listening to this. Also, Christina has started her own podcast, or it's coming.
Yes.
Talk Therapy. And as you guys know from this episode, she has a lot to say. She's had a lot of experience.
Very articulate.
Speaks very well. And you guys will get so much value from her potty, and we'll get you back on talking business and all the things. But thank you so much for your time.
Where can people find you?
Christina Pengilly on Instagram.
So how do you spell Pengilly?
Pengilly.
Nice.
And then same, Christina Harvey on YouTube. I was like, have two names at the moment, guys. Doubling. And yeah, YouTube, Instagram, all the links are in my bio there. And then Talk Therapy.
Yeah.
So excited.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode, guys. We'll be back in your ears on Thursday for our last episode of mini series for Skin.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.